before lunch we have Yukiko Kikuchi from Japan. She ran and has been running humanitarian aid campaigns in Japan for Chechens. The floor is yours. Distinguished friends, dear participants, distinguished representatives of the press. When I came to this conference, I had planned to thank İMKANDER initially because it is a very important and timely conference. How do Japanese people feel about human rights violations in Northern Caucasus? Last year, on the 11th of March, I started working on this very topic. As you know, Japan had suffered from devastating earthquakes, and nuclear power plant had blasted. Many victims suffered from the earthquake and the blast in the nuclear power plant. We had many casualties. After this, I visited Russia and the CIS countries for the first time. I also met people who suffered from or who were injured in the aftermath of the Chernobyl disaster. This geography is a very versatile and diverse geography. For the first time I visited there, I did not really notice there was a war, but it was back in 2002. I remember there was a huge war in Chechnya. In 2002, I had graduated from school and I had come to Moscow to continue my education. In Nordos Theater, remember, there was a disaster. I remember that very well and I had watched it live on TV. I had just started learning Russian and I had not understood a word. I had not really understood what was going on. But then, this disaster really left its mark in my memory. Then I continued my education at university and my research project was Chechnya. I talked to Chechnyan diaspora. In 2006, a Chechnyan kid living in Baku received help from me. He wanted to see Japan and he was a very smart kid, a very intelligent boy. He performed very beautiful Caucasian dances in the school where I had studied back in Japan. It was really an incredible performance, and Chechnyan people were interested in his visit to Japan. Japanese people do not really know much about the Caucasus. And Japanese people are also unaware of human rights violations in Northern Caucasus. First World War, for Japanese people, was something that they watched on TV. And we were hearing on TV that Chechnyan people were winning in the aftermath of the First World War. After the collapse of the Soviet Union, Japanese people did not know what would happen to the Chechnyan struggle, Chechnyan fight for independence. Of course, Russian army changed tactics in the meantime. Kremlin changed its policies, and Chechnyan Mujahideen started suffering even more. And the population in this geography were fighting for their survival because there was continuous bombardment and people were being kidnapped. And Japanese people did not know anything about these very important historical events. Unfortunately, when we hear about blasts, we always associate it with a gang originating from northern Caucasus. This is how the news covered the stories in Japan, unfortunately. There is no mention of the history, there is no mention of the reasons behind the blasts. There is no one who knows the realities of the northern Caucasus. Foreign Ministry of Japan it does not accept it as a total human rights violation either. They keep asking me, why are there female suicide bombers? So they don't understand the reasons, they don't understand the background. That's why they keep asking these questions to me. For instance, there was a video. In this video, a Japanese hostage in Iraq was being beheaded. That video was covered very widely. If you search the word Chechnya in Japanese language, then you will see pictures of people who are beheading others. Japanese people do not really perceive that this is not the case. They don't really see the reasons behind the cause of the Chechnyan people. They don't really know the background of this fight. Japanese people, Japanese citizens are completely unaware of what has been going on in this geography. Some people of Caucasus origin in Japan are not very welcome either, because Japanese people fear those people. Journalists are also scared of Muslim communities, and they even are reluctant to conduct interviews with representatives of Muslim communities. They even gathered information about me. They really wanted to understand why I am interested in this issue, why I volunteered in an NGO working on humanitarian relief and assistance. Of course, they don't know me and they don't understand why I support this cause. Of course, this is a matter of lack of adequate information or maybe misinformation. But this is a very serious problem. In 2008, I delivered a presentation about the Caucasus. When I finished my presentation, an agency contacted me. This agency was involved in security-related issues, and they questioned me about why I was interested in this very topic. Then I came to Moscow for a master's degree, and I was banned from entering the Russian Federation. I was kept at the airport for 24 hours. So I could not really enter the Russian Federation, and I was deported. And since then I could not enter the Russian Federation. I am also banned from entering 6 CIS countries. Maybe this has to do with the collaboration between Japanese security forces and the Russian security forces. That I do not know. But there has to be a reason behind my interception at the border gates. Japanese people are not fully aware of what human rights is all about. The level of consciousness is much lower than that in Europe, because peoples living in Japan have their own representatives, and there is still discrimination against those peoples in Japan as well. And in Japan, there is a loophole in the legislation. That is why it is not possible to prevent discrimination against different communities. Of course, fundamental freedoms and human rights are important all around the world. In Japan, we should also attach a lot of importance to this. However, unfortunately, still fundamental human rights are being violated, particularly the human rights of foreigners. And according to international legislation, the police detain people at prisons, and normally their beloved ones should be able to visit the detainees, which is the case in Europe, but in Japan there is no legislation that arrange such issues. Therefore, in CIS countries, international human rights and freedoms are more protected than in Japan. Foreigners residing in Japan do not know how to defend themselves. In Japan, there is still death penalty. And when you look at recent history, there is still the tradition of vendetta, or punishing someone who has done wrong to you on your own. This shows that there are significant loopholes in our country in terms of protection of human rights. Japanese people have full confidence in their government. So in this post-war period, I think it has become even more popular to expect everything from the government. They are scared and they want to really rely on the government for protection in case of war. Of course, we do not say that Japanese people should protest against the government, but they should defend their rights and freedoms in a systematic manner. Caucasian people keep asking, why don't you claim Kuril Islands from Russia? There's a reason for that. Because we do not want any more casualties. And we are really scared to lose more people in the war. The question is, why do Caucasian people resist against Russia? This is the question that ensues. Last year, human rights have become an even more topical issue in Japan. Tokyo Energy Agency has still not been punished, despite the recent nuclear disaster. hundreds of people had to evacuate their homes. And in Hiroshima, people are living as it were they had been through a war, because they cannot go back to their homes, they cannot go back to their homeland because of threat of radiation. Well, there are certain regions where radiation levels are very high, and there are places with mid-level and low-level radiation. Women, girls are also very much concerned. They don't know if they will be able to deliver babies in the future, if they will be able to become pregnant in the future. Still, in Tokyo, people are in total neglect. In 2000, in Moscow, people felt almost the same way. In Chechnya, blood was being shed, there was atrocity, but in Moscow, people were living happily, as it were nothing was happening. This is the case in Tokyo right now. Those who were martyrs and Ghazis, I talked to all these people. I've seen men of 18, 19 years of age who have lost their limbs, their arms or legs, who will be disabled for the rest of their lives. So this is what we have seen.
Возник вопрос, почему старшее поколение не жертвует собой? Ведь они...
So these people are ready for this war, and they are here to continue this struggle, and they have what it takes to continue on this road, and they have dedicated themselves to this journey. The government of the Russian Federation, why do they have such a tunnel vision? Why can't they broaden their horizons and see the realities in the region? As of today, in the Caucasus, there are so many serious problems that are being experienced by the local populations. This resistance is all about freedom, is all about liberty, especially for the future generations. These people are waging this war. I would like to thank you for your attention and for your kind invitation. Thank you very much indeed, and I hope that peace is established in Northern Caucasus. Our last speaker was coming from a distant geography, but she has done a lot in order to further our struggle in such corners of the world. I think we have reached our time limits, and actually we are beyond our time limits. That's why I would like to thank all the participants, but if you have any questions for them, please ask those questions during the lunch break. Thank you very much to all the attendants and all the speakers for their presentations, for their remarks. We as Muslims believe that martyrs never die, and with this sentiment I would like to once again salute this struggle for freedom in the Northern Caucasus, and let us take this opportunity to remember all our martyrs once again. Thank you very much.